The silence of deep space was broken only by the emergency klaxons echoing through the corridors of the Zephyrian research vessel, Astral Wanderer. Captain Keth Voss pressed his four-fingered hands against the navigation console, his blue-scaled face reflecting the red warning lights that bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too many close calls in the void. "Hyperdrive is completely dead, Captain," reported Navigator Yil Chen, her tentacles dancing nervously over the damaged control panels. "The quantum cascade failure fried most of our primary systems. We're running on backup power only." Chief Engineer Brack Tor, a massive being from the heavy-gravity world of Thoraxis, lumbered onto the bridge. His rocky exterior showed stress fractures that appeared when his species experienced extreme worry. "Captain, I've run every diagnostic I know. The hyperdrive core is beyond repair with our current resources. We're stranded." The bridge fell silent except for the constant hum of life support systems struggling to maintain atmosphere. 23 crew members from 7 different species, all specialists in their fields, all now trapped in a region of space so remote that it didn't even appear on most star charts. Captain Keth Voss had been commanding survey missions for over 30 standard years. The Astral Wanderer was part of the Galactic Scientific Consortium's Deep Space Exploration Program, tasked with mapping the unexplored regions beyond the Outer Rim territories. They had been investigating unusual energy readings from what appeared to be an ancient alien artifact when the cascade failure occurred. "How far are we from the nearest inhabited system?" the captain asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Navigator Yil Chen's tentacles drooped. "At least 47 light-years from the closest outpost. Even if our subspace communicator were working at full power, which it isn't, any distress signal would take decades to reach anyone." Dr. Marin Kuo, the ship's chief scientist and a member of the peaceful Serenian species, looked up from her readings. Her large, luminous eyes reflected her growing concern. "Captain, our food synthesizers are operating at 60% efficiency due to power constraints. With rationing, we have perhaps 4 months of supplies." The mathematics were cruel and simple. No faster-than-light travel, no long-range communications, and limited supplies in a region of space where rescue was nearly impossible. The crew had families, research projects, entire lives waiting for them in civilized space. Now they faced the very real possibility of dying forgotten in the cosmic void. "There has to be something we can do," insisted pilot Jenkara, a young Zephyrian on her first deep space assignment. "What about cannibalizing other systems to repair the hyperdrive?" Engineer Brack Tor's stone-like features somehow managed to convey sadness. "I've already considered every possibility. The quantum resonance chamber was completely destroyed. We would need components that simply don't exist anywhere on this ship." As the days passed, the crew tried to maintain their routines, but desperation crept in like a slow poison. The various species aboard had different ways of dealing with stress. The Zephyrians became quiet and introspective. The Serenians meditated in groups, their gentle humming filling the corridors at scheduled times. The Thoraxians threw themselves into physical labor, checking and rechecking every system. Dr. Marin Kuo spent most of her time analyzing the artifact that had caused their predicament. It was a crystalline structure about the size of a cargo container, covered in symbols that predated any known civilization. The energy readings it emitted were unlike anything in the scientific databases. "It's almost as if it's trying to communicate," she explained to Captain Keth Voss during one of their daily briefings. "The energy pulses follow patterns too complex to be natural phenomena, but I can't decode what it's trying to say." "Could it help us somehow?" the captain asked hopefully. "I don't know. The energy signature is incredibly powerful, but it's unlike any technology we understand. Trying to tap into it could be dangerous." 3 weeks into their ordeal, something changed. Navigator Yil Chen was conducting her routine scans when she detected something that made her heart skip a beat. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures on long-range sensors. Something's out there." The bridge erupted in controlled excitement. Captain Kethvoss rushed to the sensor station, hardly daring to hope. "Distance and heading. Approximately 15 million kilometers and closing. The energy signature is strange. I've never seen readings like this before. Could it be another ship? The propulsion system is completely unknown. It's not using any form of hyperdrive technology I recognize, but it's moving faster than anything should be able to move in normal space." Dr. Marin Kuo joined them at the sensors. "The power output is enormous. Whatever it is, it's generating energy levels that dwarf our entire ship's capabilities." "Should we try to signal them?" asked pilot Jen Kara. Captain Kethvoss considered the options. In their situation, any contact was potentially their salvation, but first contact protocols existed for good reasons. Unknown ships in deep space could represent anything from pirates to hostile alien species. "Transmit a standard peaceful greeting on all frequencies," he decided. "Include our species identification and distress situation." The message was broadcast into the void. Hours passed with no response. The unknown vessel continued its approach, and as it drew closer, the sensor readings became even more confusing. "Captain," Navigator Yil Chen reported, her voice filled with wonder and confusion. "The ship appears to be constructed primarily of metals, dense, heavy metals. The design is completely unlike anything in our databases." "How large is it?" "Approximately 800 meters in length. It's massive, but the construction suggests it's built for durability rather than speed or efficiency." Engineer Bractor studied the readings with professional interest. "Look at these power distribution patterns. Everything about this ship suggests a species that prioritizes brute force engineering over elegant solutions. Whoever built this believes in making things strong rather than sophisticated." As the hours passed, the crew of the Astral Wanderer found themselves facing a new kind of uncertainty. Rescue might be at hand, but from whom? The approaching vessel represented technology and design philosophies completely alien to everything they knew about spacefaring civilizations. Dr. Marin Kuo made another disturbing discovery. "Captain, I'm detecting weapons signatures. This ship is heavily armed. The energy output from what appear to be weapon systems is significant." "Are they targeting us?" "No. The weapons appear to be powered down. But the readings suggest capabilities far beyond anything in our military databases." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Every spacefaring species they knew had developed along similar technological paths, prioritizing efficiency, elegance, and peaceful exploration. This unknown ship seemed to represent a completely different approach to space travel, and more ominously, to conflict. Captain Kethvoss made what might be the most important decision of his career. Prepare a more detailed message. Include information about our scientific mission, our peaceful intentions, and our desperate situation. If these beings have the capability to help us, we need to convince them to do so. The message was transmitted with their remaining power reserves. All they could do now was wait and hope that whoever was aboard that massive, heavily armed vessel would choose to help rather than harm them. The unknown ship continued its steady approach through the cosmic darkness, carrying with it the hopes and fears of 23 stranded souls who had never encountered anything quite like it before. The response came 12 hours later, transmitted in perfect galactic standard with only the slightest accent that none of the crew could identify. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy vessel, Indomitable. We received your distress signal and are altering course to assist. Prepare for contact in 6 hours." The bridge of the Astral Wanderer fell completely silent. Earth was a name that appeared in some of the oldest galactic databases, listed as a small, unremarkable world in a remote spiral arm. According to all available information, it was inhabited by a primitive species that had barely achieved basic spaceflight. "That's impossible," whispered Navigator Yil Chen. "Earth is thousands of light years from here. How could they have traveled this far? And more importantly, how did they get here so fast?" Dr. Marin Kuo was frantically searching through the scientific databases. "According to our records, Earth's inhabitants, called humans, achieved their first orbital flight only about 100 standard years ago. They shouldn't have faster-than-light capability, let alone ships capable of deep space operations." Captain Keth Voss studied the approaching vessel on their view screen. The design was unlike anything he had ever seen. Where most ships were built with flowing lines and elegant curves, this human ship looked like it had been assembled by someone who expected to fight their way through space itself. It bristled with weapon emplacements, sensor arrays, and what appeared to be armor plating thick enough to stop meteor impacts. "Captain," Engineer Bractor reported, his rocky features showing amazement, "I'm analyzing their propulsion signature. It's not a hyperdrive. They're somehow manipulating space-time directly, creating a localized distortion field that allows faster-than-light travel without entering hyperspace." "How is that possible?" "I don't know. The mathematics alone should require computational power beyond what any single ship could carry." As the Indomitable drew closer, more details became visible. The ship was scarred from what appeared to be numerous battles, with patches of newer metal covering areas that had obviously been repaired multiple times. This was not a pristine exploration vessel like their own, but a warship that had seen serious combat. Another transmission arrived. "Captain Keth Voss, this is Captain Chen. We're preparing to come alongside your vessel. Our engineers indicate you've suffered a hyperdrive cascade failure. We can provide assistance, but we'll need to send a team aboard to assess the damage." Captain Keth Voss hesitated. Standard first contact protocols required extensive communication before allowing unknown species aboard their ship, but they were dying slowly in deep space, and these humans were their only hope. "Captain Chen, we appreciate your assistance. However, we must inform you that this would constitute first contact between our species. Are you prepared for the protocols this requires?" There was a pause before the response came, and Captain Keth Voss could swear he heard laughter in the background. "Captain, with respect, this isn't our first contact with galactic civilization. We've been active in this region for over 20 years. We're familiar with most species and their protocols. What we're more concerned about is getting you home safely." This revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge crew. 20 years? How had an entire species achieved interstellar travel and maintained operations for 20 years without appearing in any galactic databases? The Indomitable settled into position alongside the Astral Wanderer with movements that spoke of long experience in ship-to-ship operations. An extending docking tube connected the two vessels, and soon Captain Keth Voss found himself waiting in the airlock to meet humanity's representatives. The first human through the airlock was a woman in a dark blue uniform covered with insignia that spoke of long service and numerous campaigns. Captain Sarah Chen was smaller than most galactic species, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. Behind her came a man with graying hair and tool-covered overalls who could only be their chief engineer. "Captain Keth Voss," Captain Chen said, extending her hand in what the captain recognized as a human greeting gesture. "I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner. We were engaged in operations in the Proxima sector when we received your transmission." "Operations?" Captain Keth Voss asked as they walked toward the engineering section. "Pirate suppression. Mostly. There's been increased raider activity along the trade routes lately. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb was already examining the destroyed hyperdrive core with instruments that looked far more advanced than anything in the Galactic Consortium's technology base. Yeah, this is definitely a cascade failure. The quantum resonance chamber is completely fried. You're lucky the containment field held, or this could have taken out half your ship. Can you repair it? Asked Engineer Bracktor hopefully. Webb scratched his chin thoughtfully. Not with what you've got here, but we can fabricate replacement components aboard the Indomitable. Give us about 8 hours, and we'll have you back in business. Dr. Marin Quo stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic caution. How is it possible that your species has achieved such technological advancement so quickly? Our records show... Captain Chen's expression grew somewhat guarded. Doctor, your records are probably out of date. Humans have a tendency to develop rapidly when circumstances require it. What kind of circumstances? It was Engineer Webb who answered, his tone growing grim. The kind where you either advance fast or become extinct. We ran into some unfriendly neighbors early in our spacefaring days. As the human engineering team worked with impossible efficiency to diagnose and repair their ship, Captain Kethvos found himself in the ship's mess hall with Captain Chen, sharing what humans called coffee. The beverage was bitter and energizing, unlike anything he had experienced before. May I ask about your ship's armament? Captain Kethvos inquired carefully. Your vessel appears to be designed primarily for combat. Captain Chen's laugh was rueful. That's because it is. The Indomitable is a heavy cruiser, designed for long-range patrol and anti-piracy operations. Most human ships are built for dual purpose these days. Dual purpose. Exploration and defense. We learned early that the galaxy can be a dangerous place. There are species out there that view other civilizations as resources to be exploited rather than neighbors to be befriended. Dr. Marin Quo joined them, her large eyes wide with curiosity. Could you tell us more about your encounters with hostile species? This is unprecedented in our experience. Captain Chen exchanged a look with her first officer, a stern-faced woman named Commander Rodriguez. About 30 years ago, we made contact with a species called the Devourers. They had conquered most of a neighboring star cluster by systematically destroying or enslaving every civilization they encountered. That's impossible, Dr. Marin Quo protested. The Galactic Consortium has maintained peace for over 2,000 years. Large-scale conflicts simply don't happen anymore. They don't happen in consortium space, Commander Rodriguez said quietly. Out here in the frontier regions, different rules apply. Captain Chen continued. The Devourers saw humanity as just another primitive species ripe for conquest. They were wrong. By the time we finished the war, their empire no longer existed. You defeated an entire interstellar empire? Captain Kethvos asked, hardly believing what he was hearing. We did what we had to do to survive. Humans have certain advantages when it comes to warfare. We adapt quickly, we're persistent, and we have what our psychologists call pack-bonding instincts that make us extremely protective of allies. Engineer Webb appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on a cloth. Captain, we're ready to install the new resonance chamber. Should have you up and running in about 2 hours. As the repairs progressed, Captain Kethvos found himself reevaluating everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. If humans had been operating in deep space for decades, fighting wars against hostile empires, how many other species might be out there that the consortium had never encountered? Captain Chen, he asked during one of their conversations, why hasn't humanity made contact with the Galactic Consortium? We've been watching you for years, she replied. Your consortium is impressive, but it's also insular. You've had peace for so long that you've forgotten how to prepare for conflict. Out here, that kind of thinking gets entire civilizations destroyed. But surely cooperation is preferable to conflict. Always, when it's possible. But there are species out there that don't want to cooperate. They want to dominate. When you encounter them, you have 2 choices: fight or become their slaves. Humans chose to fight. The repairs were completed ahead of schedule, with the human engineering team demonstrating capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. They had not only fixed the hyperdrive, but upgraded it with improvements that would increase efficiency by 15%. As the two ships prepared to part ways, Captain Chen made an unexpected offer. "Captain Kethvos, your ship is welcome to accompany us back to human space. We have a deep space facility, about 3 days from here, where you could resupply and make any additional repairs needed." "That's very generous, but we have our mission to complete." Captain Chen's expression grew serious. "Captain, I've been monitoring the area where you encountered that artifact. The energy signatures are attracting attention from some very dangerous species. I strongly recommend you complete your survey quickly and return to consortium space." Dangerous species? Slavers, pirates, and worse. Word travels fast in the frontier regions when someone discovers ancient technology. You don't want to be here when the scavengers arrive. Captain Chen's warning proved prophetic. 3 days after the Indomitable departed, the Astral Wanderer's sensors detected multiple ships approaching from different vectors. Unlike the human vessel, these ships moved with predatory purpose, their approach patterns designed to prevent escape. "Captain, I'm reading 5 vessels of unknown configuration," reported Navigator Yil Chen, her tentacles trembling with worry. "They're not responding to our hails, and their approach suggests hostile intent." Captain Keth Voss studied the tactical display with growing dread. The approaching ships were sleek and angular, built for speed and aggression. Their energy signatures indicated advanced weaponry and military-grade shielding. "Dr. Marin Quo, are you certain there's no way to move the artifact? If that's what they're after, perhaps we could jettison it." The Serenian scientist looked up from her console, her large eyes reflecting genuine fear. "The artifact has somehow interfaced with our ship's systems. Any attempt to remove it now could cause a catastrophic power feedback. We could lose life support entirely." Engineer Bractor's stone-like features showed deep concern. "Captain, our weapon systems are purely defensive. We have no chance against military vessels in open combat." The lead ship established communication using a translation matrix that took several minutes to synchronize. When it finally spoke, the voice was cold and mechanically precise. "Research vessel, you will surrender the ancient artifact in your possession. Compliance will ensure the survival of your crew. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your ship." Captain Keth Voss had commanded peaceful scientific missions for decades, but he understood the reality of their situation. These were not pirates looking for random plunder. They had come specifically for the artifact, which meant they either had been monitoring the area or had sources of information about ancient technology. "This is Captain Keth Voss of the Galactic Scientific Consortium vessel, Astral Wanderer. The artifact you reference is part of an active research project. We cannot comply with your demands. You have 10 minutes to reconsider. After that time, we will take the artifact by force." As the communication ended, the bridge crew looked to their captain for guidance. In their entire careers, none of them had ever faced anything like this situation. The consortium had maintained peace through diplomacy and mutual cooperation for so long that most species had forgotten how to deal with genuine aggression. "Captain," pilot Jen Kara said quietly, "should we attempt to flee?" "They've positioned themselves to block all escape routes," Navigator Yil Chen reported. "Even if our hyperdrive were functioning perfectly, we couldn't jump to hyperspace before they intercepted us." Dr. Marin Quo was frantically working at her science station. "There might be another option. The artifact has been steadily increasing its energy output since the hostile ships arrived. It's almost as if it's reacting to their presence." "Reacting how?" "The energy patterns are becoming more complex, more organized. I think it might be some kind of defensive system." Before Captain Keth Voss could respond, the lead enemy vessel opened fire. Energy beams that could slice through asteroid fields struck the Astral Wanderer's shields, causing the entire ship to shudder. Alarms began blaring as power fluctuations rippled through their systems. "Shields down to 60%, Engineer Bractor reported. Another hit like that, and we'll lose primary power. The artifact suddenly erupted in brilliant light, its crystalline structure pulsing with energies that made their sensors go wild. For a moment, Captain Kethvos thought it might actually be some kind of weapon that could save them. Then the second enemy ship fired, and their shields collapsed entirely. "Hull breach on Deck 4, came the damage report. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." It was at that moment of absolute despair that the impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open near the enemy formation, and the Indomitable emerged from what appeared to be a localized space-time distortion. The human warship had somehow folded space to arrive instantaneously at their exact location. "All enemy vessels, this is Captain Chen of the United Earth Navy. You will cease hostile actions immediately and withdraw from this area." The lead enemy commander's response dripped with contempt. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 5-1. Withdraw immediately or share the fate of the research ship." Negative. "You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and begin withdrawal." What happened next would be seared into the memory of every crew member aboard the Astral Wanderer for the rest of their lives. The Indomitable didn't wait for a response. At exactly 30 seconds, it opened fire with weapons that defied everything they thought they knew about space combat. Instead of the familiar energy beams or plasma charges used by most civilizations, the human ship deployed weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Gravitational lances tore through enemy shields as if they were paper, while something the humans called singularity torpedoes created miniature black holes that consumed entire sections of enemy vessels. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, 4 of the 5 enemy ships had been completely destroyed, and the 5th was limping away with massive damage, apparently more interested in escaping than continuing the fight. "Captain Kethvos, this is Captain Chen. Are you injured? Do you require immediate assistance?" As damage control teams worked to repair their ship, Captain Kethvos found himself once again aboard the Indomitable, this time in the ship's medical bay where Dr. Martinez was treating several injured crew members with technology that seemed to border on miraculous. "How?" he asked Captain Chen as they watched the human doctor use some kind of cellular regeneration device to heal Navigator Yil Chen's injuries. "How did you get here so quickly? How did you know we were in trouble?" Captain Chen's expression was grim. "We've been tracking those raiders for weeks. When we realized they were heading for your location, we used our experimental jump drive to get here as fast as possible." "Jump drive?" "Instantaneous space-time displacement. It's dangerous and uses enormous amounts of power, but it allows us to arrive exactly where we need to be in moments rather than hours." Dr. Marin Kuo, who had been quietly observing the medical treatment, finally spoke up. "Captain Chen, your species' technological capabilities far exceed anything we've encountered. How is this possible?" Commander Rodriguez answered this time, her voice carrying the weight of hard experience. "Necessity. When you're constantly fighting for survival against species that want to destroy you, you either innovate rapidly or become extinct. Humans chose to innovate. But the weapons you used, they seem to manipulate fundamental forces of physics." "They do," Captain Chen confirmed. "When conventional weapons aren't sufficient, you develop unconventional ones. Humans have been forced to become very good at unconventional warfare." Engineer Webb joined the conversation, having finished his inspection of their ship's systems. "Your artifact is interesting, by the way. The energy signature is similar to some ancient defensive networks we've encountered in the outer systems. There might be more to it than you realize." Dr. Marin Kuo's eyes widened. "You've encountered similar technology before?" "Several times. Usually left behind by civilizations that were destroyed by the same kinds of raiders who just attacked you. The galaxy used to be much more dangerous than it is now." "Used to be?" Captain Chen's smile was sharp and cold. "Humans have been working to change that. Species that prey on others tend to find us very disagreeable neighbors. As the Astral Wanderer prepared for its journey back to Consortium space, Captain Keth Voss realized that his crew's rescue had revealed something far more significant than ancient alien artifacts. Humanity represented a completely different approach to galactic civilization, one forged in conflict and tempered by necessity. "Captain Chen," he said during their final meeting, "I believe the Galactic Consortium needs to know about your people. The galaxy is apparently more dangerous than we realized." "It is," she agreed, "but it's becoming safer, one system at a time. When you're ready to face the realities of frontier space, humans will be ready to stand with you." As the two ships parted ways, Captain Keth Voss watched the Indomitable disappear into the cosmic darkness, returning to its patrol of the dangerous regions where civilizations rose and fell based on their willingness to defend themselves. The artifact remained aboard the Astral Wanderer, its energy signature now stable and peaceful. Dr. Marin Kuo had concluded that it was indeed part of an ancient defensive network, designed to call for help when threatened. In a way, it had succeeded beyond its creator's wildest dreams, summoning not the ancient protectors it was designed to contact, but something far more effective. It had summoned humanity. The Astral Wanderer completed its journey back to Consortium space without further incident, carrying with it a complete scientific survey of the artifact and, more importantly, proof that the galaxy contained allies they had never known existed. Allies who would answer a call for help without hesitation, regardless of the odds they faced. In his final report, Captain Keth Voss wrote, "The universe is vast and often dangerous, but it is not empty of hope. Sometimes, when all seems lost in the deepest darkness, salvation arrives wearing human faces and speaking words of defiance against the void. We are no longer alone.